OCO, everyone. OCO. So I decided to do a part two to astrology because I assumed I was finished with the introduction, but clearly I wasn't. I got off of the podcast, scrolled on social media, and saw some more stuff. I'm like, wow. I forgot all about astrological traits, well, transits. So that's what I'm going to start with since I mentioned that. So this is part two once again, and astrological transits is like the horoscope forecast, which talks about the future trends and the developments in this system. So I want to elaborate on that a little bit. This is actually astrological transits is proof that astrology is real. Let's say if it wasn't real, it became real when actions started to display and certain things started to illustrate through astrology. This is what the elites use to maintain individual mindsets. That's why when we are born, our long form doesn't get handed to our parent from birth. That's something we grow older to discover on our own or through a grapevine and have to recommend it, order it. Well, you can recommend as well, but order it from the capital of your state. For me, I was 22 or 23 when I found out. I'm like, wow, there's more to my birth certificate. And the long form has the time that you were born on it. I don't know how it is in every other state or every other country, but I do know in the United States of America, St. Louis, Missouri, South City to be exact, I had to get my long form from the capital, from Jefferson City. That's the capital of Missouri. That's a 2-hour drive. I wasn't willing to drive 2 hours just to get it, so I had them mail it. And it got the time on it that I was born. And it's like, for a lot of people to say astrology, well, for a lot of individuals who debunk astrology, I'd be flabbergasted by their mindset, because it's like, there are certain steps that we need to take in order to get our long form. Why the time that we were born is not on our, whether it's a long form or a short form of a birth certificate, it should automatically been passed down to us. We shouldn't have to wait till we get older and get it mailed to us from the capital of the state that we were born in. Like, who does that? So, yeah, for astrology, I said, wow. You could tell. I'm just now getting up. Anywho, for astrology to be fake for some individuals, there sure is a lot of information that can say otherwise. Like, seriously. There's something else that's a part of astrology called, let me make sure I'm pronouncing this right first. Synastry, if I'm not mistaken. And it's the combination of two astrological charts to determine areas of strength versus the weakness in relationships. And it's synastry once again. And it's not only the combination of two astrological charts being examined against one another. Well, I wouldn't say against, but just examining to see how companion the individuals are. It's just not having to do with like intimate relationships, but just like how would your relationship be with your mom, your dad, your aunt, your cousins, your godparents, etc. It's like comparing two charts can literally show you, like they said, the weakness versus the strength of your capability that you have with one another. And I found that very interesting. I've been known about it, but I didn't know the name of it. So, like I said, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. This is something I'm actually going to learn more about, since I'm stepping more into the analytical side of astrology, and I'm going to be talking about astrology. I want to talk about it from experience. So once I gain enough experience to express synastry, then that's what I'm going to do within my ministry of astrology, and that's simply to express it, because that's one thing I want to keep intact when I do discuss astrology. Is everything I speak on, I want to speak on it from experience, not from someone else's, from my own two lens, from my own walk of life, because I feel like there's no better way of explaining something than to explain it from what you're a witness or what you have been through yourself. And that's something I always want to keep in mind when I just not speak on astrology, but speak on anything really. I always want to keep their authenticity intact, and in a way that whether individuals agree to disagree or disagree to agree, we can all come to the common ground, and knowing that, you know, even if it's not your truth, it's mine. It's something I witnessed or lived through. And that's the glory of information. That's why it's called information, because it's something inwardly in you that is formatting and better articulating your experience, yours and mine. Because that's what I'm speaking on. I'm speaking on myself when I say that. So another thing that I found intriguing is there's different types of natal charts, and there's different branches within those natal charts. Now, natal charts is the exact same thing as saying astrology chart. So the first one is the natal chart. That's the one that everybody know of. And there's different types of natal charts. So it's sometimes there are branches within branches. Astrology is that deep. I will and have compared astrology to calculus, because it's so detailed. It's so mathematic in a way, especially when you go into the numerology side of things, which is going to be an episode I'm going to touch on as well. I'm not going to put a date on it, a time frame on it, because I have some other things that's going to be released as well. So the natal chart is the first branch, and this is not going in any particular order. I'm just simply naming a few, which is 6 that I have in front of me. Now the second one, I already mentioned synastry, but it's also called relationship astrology as well. There's another one called medical astrology. I don't know the other term for it, but medical astrology is it associates with various body parts and diseases. So a lot of individuals don't know this, but for example, I'm an Aries. Aries energy, those who have strong Aries aspects in their natal chart, they can usually have a lot of diseases relating to the head. Aries, like and it can be disorders, you know, whatever term you feel fits best to your description. Like for example, I have eye problems. I wear glasses. I also have vitiligo, and it's spreading in my eyes. Hopefully it don't go into the center, because I would have to get eye laser surgery if it does. Then there's some scarring tissue within my eyes. So Aries rule the head. So expect for certain things, for certain problems to begin in the head area of an Aries. And like I said, I have vitiligo, and it's mainly on my face. It's like nowhere else on my particular body but my face. And I get a lot of migraines. And let me be fair, the face, there's certain parts of the face that Aries do not rule, like the mouth. If I'm not mistaken, it's either the mouth or the throat is ruled by Taurus. I could be wrong. I'm gonna look deeper into that. Right now, I'm just touching on the basics and giving examples. So migraines definitely an Aries thing. You don't have to be an Aries to have migraines, by the way. So let's not be over dramatic. I'm just saying that you can find I have found patterns within looking at my medical side of astrology in my natal chart, and I'm like, wow, a lot of health conditions that I do have can be traced back to my head. And my sun is in Aries, meaning Aries rule the head. So that was interesting to find out in regards of medical astrology. Now, there was something else. I think it's called modern or mundane astrology. So if I'm not mistaken, it's called modern astrology, and it predicts the world events and affairs. Now, it's very similar to what I've mentioned when it comes to astrological transits. That's like the same thing, because it's predicting. That's the common denominator. So, also, there's electional astrology. Electional astrology is picking the best time / events within astrology. This is like where the elites hang at. Like, if they want to create a big event, or have you heard rumors about how, like, there's no mistake when art celebrities die and stuff like that, and you can add up the numbers in numerology and stuff. You can also find out a few things in astrology as well that conspiracy theorists would love that can prove that certain individuals, and majority of them in the spotlight, deaths were planned out. So electional astrology really does pick out the best time when it comes to certain events, whether it be good events, bad events. It's all about timing with electional astrology. Now, I don't know why it looked like hooray. It might not be hooray astrology. I could be wrong, y'all, but that's dealing with prophecy, seeking answers. Like, when you seeking answers for certain things, like why is it hard for me to be emotional, for example? My moon in Capricorn, so that would explain on my end. But that's kind of dealing with it's like what is the word? It's like a prophecy tool. It's like you're really just looking to seek answers and comprehension of your experience. That's the clarification side of things. Now, I got 2 more. So this one is short. These are just some things I left out. And if there's more, then there will be a part 3. Or I would just combine the 2. Oh, it's really a lot. But anywho. So 2 more things before I close out. Now, retrograde is very popular. The term alone is very popular. A lot of individuals are familiar with the term retrograde. A lot of individuals are caught up in just Mercury in retrograde. That's not the only retrograde. Mercury is not the only planet that retrograde. My rising sign in my sidereal chart is Scorpio. In my tropical chart, it's Pluto in Sagittarius, retrograded. So my Pluto is retrograded, means I have to go inwardly in order to ascend. And I'm gonna alliterate on that more in up and coming episodes. How about that? So I just wanted to mention that retrogrades are not the only. Mercury is not the only planet that retrograde. That was the point I'm making. So, let's talk about the solar eclipse. Now, I actually witnessed the sun and the moon pass each other. It was during the evening. It was bright as day outside. And soon as when Soon as when the moon and the sun like crossed paths, day turned into night within a blink of an eye. And that was my first time witnessing that. That was like a few years ago, like in 2018 or 2019. I was shocked. I never seen that. I always thought that was like a theory or something. But that was something I witnessed. So the solar eclipse is when 2 planets cross each other. And the definition that I have is like the shadow. The shadow is like the moon crossing the sun block. Yeah. So it creates a block. The moon blocks the sunlight. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but the moon gets its light from the sun, from the reflection of the sun. When the sun beams, it shines the light on other planets. And the moon happened to be one of those planets. And the moon originally does not come with light, does not have light without the reflection of the sun. Because that's the original light. That's the light that beams through the moon. But anywho, just like it beams through the earth, the sun is what I'm speaking on. So that was proof. Actually witnessing and seeing for myself the moon and the sun passing each other. There was not two forms of light crossing paths. Those are actually two of the most powerful planets, by the way. The moon, the sun. Let me add a third one, Pluto. Even Saturn. A lot of individuals cannot handle Saturn. A lot of individuals love Jupiter, though. It's full of abundance. Whichever abundance you would tend to have. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. But before I close, I just want to mention the solar eclipse is similar to doing shadow work. It's like something in the dark coming to the light. To better improve yourself, to better become your higher self. Having those and seeking those higher vibrations of yourself. You cannot expect for others to be good to you when you're not good to you. How you treat yourself is an indication of how you want others to treat you. And usually when you treat yourself well, there's still going to be some ill will intent individuals who don't want to see you happy and would do any and everything to tarnish you. And it's just up to you to set those boundaries to make sure you're not getting broken down into pieces, especially when the individuals that's trying to break you down are not the ones that build you up. So when I look at the like solar eclipse, I just think about the dark side of things and how to shine a light on that, or rather for the darkness to be exposed to the light in order to have that balance, that duality of that form of information, that form of knowledge. So I really do love astrology. That's why I took the time out to even do a part 2, because I'm like, I could just tell them I left some out in the next. No, I don't want to do that. I just want to correct myself as I go, like I said in the first episode, the first part, in part 1 of astrology. So I'm trying to reflect at the time that I really started to like astrology. I could talk about that for a little bit. So I found out about astrology randomly. I was looking at magazines and I saw like there was different dates, birthdays and zodiac signs attached to it. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. For some reason, I found that intriguing. And I'm like, oh, what's mine? My birthday, April 10th. And so I found out, I'm an Aries or whatever. And ever since then, I just really wanted to know more about astrology. Not on a deeper level. It was just like, I wouldn't say I wanted to know. I was just embracing it. Like, all I knew at the time was, I'm Aries. So I'm saying was like I'm all of a sudden changed. My perception did, but anywho, moving on. Yeah, I found out about astrology when I was in elementary school. I had to be like in the 6th grade, like 11 years old. Probably 12, going on 12. So once I found out about astrology, I was bragging about being an Aries. And then it wasn't until like a few years later, like when I got into college, actually. So that was way, way later on in my life. Like around 22, something like that. I found out that, or 23. Probably even 24, because I'm 25 now, yeah. So it wasn't that long ago. I found out that astrology is more than just your sun sign. Your sun sign is just your self-assurance, the knowing of thyself, your ego, which a lot of people encourage you to kill. And I would have to disagree and say, if anyone encouraged you to kill off your ego, they clearly don't want you to be your higher self or to know yourself for their own advantage, which is a disadvantage to you. I would say run when you hear people say kill off your ego. It ain't about killing off your ego. It's about making sure you have self-discipline with having self-knowledge of yourself. Because you don't want your ego to develop to narcissism. That's all. That's it. And so that's really all I thought was to astrology. It was just a sun sign. But I was in a full awakening. I'm like, wow, there's moon signs, there's a rising sign, there's a descendant. I'm like, oh goodness, all the details. It's the details for me. And then once I dug deeper into astrology, I was introduced to numerology. Then after numerology, I was introduced to the chakras. Then after the chakras, I was introduced to a better comprehension of spirituality. Because to be honest, I thought spirituality was just individuals who rebelled from religion, and not everyone that is spiritual rebelled from religion. They just simply it was probably passed down from their parents. Their parents probably were the ones. And I'm gonna look more into it, but I'm quite sure spirituality was here before religion anyway. So that's the order of my experience of certain things. And that's where astrology falls in first. That was the first one I found. Well, it wasn't first. The first thing I was discovered to when it comes to the system is religion. Then it was education. And I'm gonna actually talk about that too, because I had wrote something down. I don't know what I'm gonna title that episode when I do, but just know I'm going to talk about my introduction of like different layers of this matrix that we live in. That's what I probably entitle it. But yeah, astrology plays a big part in that. That's why I even mentioned what all of I mentioned. So yeah, this is part 2. Expect more. Like I said, I'm doing a season within a season. So not only am I talking about astrology, but I'm also going to be talking about other things. Like recently, I just uploaded an episode about financial abuse. Then positive toxicity. So we're going to have a different variety of conversations. Stay tuned for that. And until next time, Adagayudi and Wadahaida Kadish.